Welcome back to DepDiv, the podcast where we examine humanity's most inconvenient family secrets. I'm your host, Maple, and today we are going full primate. Here's the thing about humans. We love feeling special. We built cathedrals, wrote symphonies, invented cryptocurrency, and somehow convinced ourselves we're evolution's crowning achievement. Then someone points at a chimpanzee eating a termite with a stick and says, "Hey, you two are basically related," and suddenly everyone gets very quiet, very fast. Let's open the file on humanity's oldest cold case and investigate the grand evolutionary riddle of our origins.
Okay, let's dive right into this lingering mystery that haunts our understanding of evolution. You've probably heard this question asked, or hey, maybe you've even asked it yourself in a moment of existential wonder. If we, with our sprawling cities and soaring minds, evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys swinging in the branches above us? Today, we unpack one of science's most gloriously humbling facts. When you look closely into the dark, intelligent eyes of a macaque, you aren't looking at your past. Humans and modern monkeys did not evolve from each other. We are distant cousins sharing a common ancestor from over 30 million years ago. Neither descended from the other. We both descended from something that, frankly, neither of us would invite to Thanksgiving. You see, most people picture evolution as a ladder. Amoeba on the bottom, fish, lizard, monkey, ape, human on top wearing a tiny crown, looking smug. Progress, achievement, the inspiring arc. Well, that ladder is completely wrong. Evolutionary biologists have been screaming about this for decades, while the rest of us keep drawing the ladder anyway. Evolution is not a ladder, it's a bush. A massive, tangled bush with branches shooting in every direction simultaneously, with no hierarchy, no destination, and absolutely no top rung. Humans aren't the goal. We're just one branch. One very loud, opinionated branch that invented podcasts and existential dread. Here's the actual timeline. Around 30 to 40 million years ago, a common ancestral primate population existed. Not a monkey, not an ape, something older, a shared root. From that root, two major lineages diverged. One led toward New World monkeys, howler monkeys, capuchins, spider monkeys. The other continued evolving and eventually produced apes, and then hominids, us. Modern monkeys didn't become humans. They went their own direction for 30 million years, developing their own adaptations, behaviors, and perfectly functional societies that involve zero student loans. Our lineage split from the great apes much more recently. Humans and chimpanzees share a common ancestor from 6 to 7 million years ago. 6 to 7 million. That is practically last Tuesday in geological time, which honestly explains a lot. So when you stare at a monkey at the zoo and feel that uncomfortable flicker of recognition, you are not looking at your ancestor. You are looking at a distant cousin who made completely different life choices 30 million years ago and has been doing fine ever since, without once worrying about their credit score.
Now, the microscopic evidence in this entire investigation is DNA, the raw, unfiltered material of all creation. And DNA isn't a rigid blueprint carved in stone. It's more like a living manuscript. As generations pass, there are these sublime, vital imperfections in the copying process. It's these tiny misprints, a slightly shifted chemical letter here or there, that grant a creature a slight, almost imperceptible survival advantage when the world around them changes. Which brings us to Section 1, the Great Savanna Split, forced from the canopy. As the planet's tectonic plates shifted and the climate dried out, the endless ocean of ancient green began to fragment. The gaps between the safety of the trees just grew too vast to leap across. So the crucial point here is that our ancestors were forced from the canopy and had to enter an unforgiving crucible of survival. The canopy had offered them safety and arboreal mastery. The savanna, well, that was a blinding glare of exposed vulnerability. It was a vast sea of tall, coarse grass hiding swift and terrible predators. The magnificent adaptations that served them perfectly in the branches were suddenly entirely inadequate on the open plains. This environmental shock triggered a staggering biological domino effect, allowing our vulnerable ancestors to survive through the brilliant, controlled forward fall of walking upright. The spine, once just a simple arch, morphed into a spring-like double curve to balance the heavy head. The pelvis completely transformed into a broad, sturdy cradle to support our internal organs against gravity. And that grasping big toe, it aligned with the other toes to form a vital, shock-absorbing arch.
But we have to acknowledge that this remarkable physical transformation came at an agonizing cost. To walk on two legs is to invite a whole host of frailties into the body. The narrowed pelvis made childbirth far more difficult and dangerous, the vertical spine introduced a permanent burden of backaches, and our newly stacked joints became incredibly fragile. Bipedalism is a highly precarious balancing act. Quick interruption. If this episode is making you productively reconsider your place in the universe, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and forward this to one friend, specifically the one who still thinks humans are evolution's grand finale.
Okay, back to it. We really have to ask ourselves, why would natural selection enforce such a dangerous anatomical redesign? Why take on all this physical cost just to stand tall in the grass? The answer to that mystery is that standing upright liberated the hands. Appendages once dedicated entirely to exhausting climbing were suddenly completely free. They could pluck tiny nutritious seeds, carry precious water over vast distances, hold a helpless infant close, and transport scavenged food to share with kin. Most importantly, those liberated hands could now wield heavy stones to crack bone and access rich marrow. The body had adapted to the landscape, but the mind, guided by those exploring hands, was about to fully awaken. Moving right into Section 2, Forged by the Flame, the biological paradox. Armed with curious, free hands, our upright ancestors did something totally unprecedented. Instead of fleeing the chaotic, primal monster of fire, they stepped toward the inferno. Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is this staggering number, 20%. Our human brain is a marvel, but it is overwhelmingly greedy. Despite making up only a tiny fraction of our overall body weight, it consumes an astonishing 20% of all the energy we produce. In the wild, where every single calorie is literally a matter of life and death, supporting such a massive mind should logically be impossible.
Our tree-dwelling cousins simply didn't have the spare fuel for large minds because raw leaves and tough roots require massive digestive tracts just to extract the bare minimum of energy. But we solved this paradox by using the ancient hearth for external digestion. By using the intense heat of fire to break down food before it ever touched our lips, we unlocked a sudden, unprecedented avalanche of rich, easily absorbed calories.
This kicked off an incredible sequence of events where shrinking guts literally fed the explosive growth of our inner universe. Because fire was now doing the exhausting work of digestion, our jaws weakened, and our massive, energy-consuming gut shrank. An immense surplus of liberated energy was suddenly redirected upwards. This fueled a rapid, explosive expansion of the outer layers of the brain, wrinkling and folding to pack billions of nerve cells into the skull.
But beyond the biology, sitting shoulder to shoulder around the dancing light of the fire forged the very roots of modern society. The ancient fire broke the dictatorial rule of the sun. It created a glowing bubble of safety in the terrifying dark. The extended evening hours became a crucible for something entirely new. Looking into the faces of kin, sharing food, forging complex language, and birthing the story.
And that brings us to Section 3, the inner universe, abstract thought and the canvas of the mind. Deep in the damp limestone bellies of caves like Lascaux and Chauvet, we find the silent echoes of our next major evolutionary leap.
We became the only creatures capable of abstract, symbolic thought. A red ochre handprint reaching across tens of thousands of years, or the sweeping lines of massive bison on a cave wall, these represent a monumental shift. It meant the human mind had fundamentally detached itself from the immediate physical world. We could hold an image in the mind when the thing itself was completely absent. Paired with the parallel evolution of our vocal cords, we could pass this accumulated knowledge across oceans of time. We were literally inventing realities that had never existed before.
So we arrive at Section 4, the fragile custodians. We finally return to our initial suspect, the monkey in the canopy. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. By several practical measures, monkeys are outperforming us. Howler monkeys have thrived for millions of years. Their social structures are stable. They don't launch wars over abstract ideological disagreements. Not impressive at calculus, but their work-life balance is frankly aspirational.
Monkeys didn't evolve into us because they were already perfectly adapted to their environment. They remain in the forest canopy because they are the master gardeners of the high branches. They act as irreplaceable instruments in nature's ongoing symphony, consuming fruit and scattering seeds to ensure the green lungs of our planet endure. Wrapped up in our modern comforts, it is perilously easy to believe the dangerous illusion that we have transcended nature, conquering the wild from our fortresses of glass and steel. But the fragile truth is so much different. We haven't stepped outside of nature at all. We are intimately, physically bound to the living, breathing engine of the natural world, perched precariously on its absolute thinnest branches.
The crucial point here is recognizing our immense vulnerability. Every single breath of oxygen in your lungs right now is a continuous living gift from microscopic diatoms and distant rainforest leaves. To put that into perspective, if you were to shrink the Earth down to the size of a common apple, the entire atmosphere protecting us would be no thicker than the delicate skin of that fruit.
The deeper point is this: evolution has no preferred destination. Natural selection doesn't reward intelligence, art, or podcast production. It rewards survival and reproduction. That's it. By that measure, humans are currently doing okay, though we are enthusiastically stress testing that status on multiple fronts simultaneously. Our astonishing capacity for survival has given us immense, terrifying geological power. We're endlessly pouring invisible exhaust into the atmosphere, wrapping the Earth in a thickening blanket. This is exactly why the latter myth isn't just scientifically wrong, it's dangerous. Once you rank species on a hierarchy of progress, it becomes very tempting to apply that same logic elsewhere. History shows exactly how that ends, and it is not good. Evolution doesn't do rankings. It does surviving until tomorrow. No gold medal, no finish line. We are not evolution's winners. We are current participants, alongside every bacterium, every fern, and every monkey eating termites with a stick in a forest who has absolutely no opinion about us and is better off for it.
We close this explainer with a final interrogation of ourselves. We are the universe made conscious. But do we have the foresight to be its custodians? Will we use our fire-forged minds to thoughtlessly destroy the stage upon which we stand, or to meticulously mend the fraying edges of the tapestry of life? So next time someone says, "We evolved from monkeys," correct them calmly. We didn't. We share ancient common ancestors with monkeys. We are distant cousins who diverged 30 million years ago, went to completely different schools, made wildly different choices, and haven't attended the same family reunion since. And yet here we both are, still on the planet, still adapting, still figuring it out on our respective branches. That's either deeply humbling or deeply comforting, depending entirely on how your week is going. Thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay humble, and remember, that monkey you keep judging from the other side of the zoo glass is family. Neither of you chose it, both of you have to live with it. See you next episode.